Я рад представить Брэда Кливленда, всемирно известного эксперта в области управления взаимоотношениями с клиентами. Брэд – автор 8 книг, такой известный, как Call Center Manager on Fast Forward. Его клиентами являются известные в мире компании, такие как Apple, Microsoft, Hewlett Packard, American Express. Список можно продолжать очень долго. К нему обращались и государственные организации из Канады, США, Великобритании. Он получил различные награды за свои работы, в том числе от награду Международного института по управлению взаимоотношениями с клиентами, основателем, в принципе, и основным партнером, управляющим, которым он является.
It is so great to be with you. Thank you very much. This is my first time in Russia. It was right over my daughter's spring break at school, so I was able to bring her along, my wife and my daughter. And my daughter is an ice skater, and she has a coach from Russia who lives half the time where we are and half the time here in Moscow. And the first thing that we discovered when we landed was the ice skating rink. And that's my daughter, Grace. And this was just hours after our plane landed. She said, "Dad, this is great. I love it here." So we're having a wonderful time. I want to begin with a polling question where you use the device. 1 yes, 2 no. When you were planning your career, did you plan to get in the call center profession? Back when you were planning your career, did you expect to get into the call center profession? Did you plan to get into the call center profession? I see lots of smiles, like, Okay, there you go. That's about what it looks like in any part of the world. And one of my main messages today is, however we got here, and I didn't plan either. It was a whole set of circumstances. However we got here, this is the most exciting time to be involved in this profession. There's so much change and so much opportunity. And I want to talk to you today about 5 trends that are truly defining this profession right now. And before I hit these 5 trends, I want to spend just a moment on context, just a moment on history. We go back about 20 years, our profession, our global profession, began to make a new understanding. We had new insight. You know, when we handle a call, when we handle any kind of interaction, it's not just the cost and benefit of that individual interaction. How well we do is going to impact the feeling that that customer has about our brand, about our company, whether they continue to do business with us. So call that customer lifetime value. 20 years ago, big jump forward. And we began to do the math. And some of you will remember the math. It still exists. It's still very relevant. Customer lifetime value. But then we began to discover a related trend. They talk to others. They tell others about their experience. The number in those days, in the mid sort of 1990s, was 5 to 7 others. Tell 5 to 7 others about their experience. And then email came along. And other forms of electronic communication, word of keypad. You can tell a lot of others. More recently, even in the last few years, there's this whole new phenomenon taking shape. And we can't just continue to do the math this way. We've got to rethink what's going on. It's different. This is becoming a very different environment. We're going through incredible change right now. The telephone has been around since 1876, and for about 125 years, the idea was the same. We communicate this way. Communicate this way. Yes, the system got a lot more advanced, but we communicate this way. And in the last decade, it's become a totally different phenomenon, a totally different environment. We can communicate in many directions, and instantaneous communities are formed. I want to show you a commercial. This is from a Norwegian company based in Norway called Statoil. And in some markets in the world, they have these mini marts where you can drive in, you fill up your car, and you can go in and you can get a cup of coffee. And I think there's a message in this commercial that they produced. And when I saw that the first time, probably like you, or maybe like you, I looked at that and I thought, there's got to be a better way to do that. There's got to be better tools. There has to be a better approach. So how we do things is important, and it's a big discussion in our profession. But I believe we're at a point where we've also got to make sure we're working on the right car. We're working on the right things. So we've got to do things right, but we've got to work on the right things. What are those things? And that's what I believe are embodied in these trends that we're picking up in our research, which I believe is very much in line with the studies we looked at earlier. One is our contact centers, our call centers are becoming a second tier of service. Most of us, when we need service, will go online. We'll get out our phone, or we'll go online and try to find what we need. Maybe there's a community of customers. Maybe there's online resources. Maybe there's a mobile app. It's the biggest joke in the business world right now. For any problem, there has to be a mobile app for it, right? So we start there, and it's only beyond that we become a customer to a contact center. Is that reducing call volume? No. It's growing in every part of the world that we're studying. It continues to grow. But the nature of the calls, the nature of the interactions is becoming more complex. Our customers know more by the time they reach us. There's a company we've worked with, they're called Intuit, I-N-T-U-I-T, Intuit. They make financial accounting software. And accounting can be complex, and the software can be complex. So they programmed right into the software the ability to click a button if you have a question, and you go right out into a community of customers, just a forum. It's very simple, actually. You ask your question, and by lunchtime, you probably got 6 answers already back. Their call center is the part of the organization that moderates and that facilitates and that helps the discussion along and that ultimately handles the most complex questions that come out of that. It's putting a question on everybody right now. Are we hiring the right people? Are we training them well? Are we equipping them the way that they deserve to be equipped to handle the complexity coming their way? Because we're adding value. We're adding incredible value today. The second trend, and this is no surprise, and I'll be very brief with this, is that we have more contact channels all the time. Yes, phone is still prevalent. It will probably be around until we're completely transition to video where we see each other, but telephone, those interactive conversations are not going to go away, but we're adding lots of channels. Our profession. And I don't know of any call center that's handling all of these channels, but everybody in the room is handling more all the time. And the research is bearing that out. The thing we're seeing in the best contact centers is a strong push into new channels. They're not just letting it happen. They're not just letting it unfold. Here's an example. There's a company in the States called Zappos, Z-A-P-P-O-S, and they sell shoes. That's basically what they do. And their service is so good that rather than walk down the street to the mall, they've gone from $0 to $1 billion US in 7 years because of excellent service. They do a great job. I wrote a blog several years ago about some of the things they were doing to really deliver excellent service. They spend as much time as they need to. They handle these different channels. And I wrote a blog, and 3 hours later, less than 3 hours later, I'm checking my mobile, and there's a response to my blog. Dear Mr. Cleveland, I'm from Zappos. Thank you very much. This was just earlier this morning. Thank you very much for writing the nice things about us. We are trying very hard. We appreciate any suggestions you have. I'm like, wow. So I replied. I said, thank you. Which part of the organization are you in? He wrote back. He said, I'm a call center agent. And they're scanning social media and pulling in those conversations, putting them on the desktop. So, I see someone named Bрэda Kливленда just wrote a blog. Let me thank him. It's very powerful. You create incredible, strong loyalty and word of mouth by being where your customers are. And currently, 10% or fewer of organizations are really doing this. And that number is growing quickly, but it's a real differentiator. Are we out there where our customers are? A third trend, and one that I get most excited about, is that we're creating higher levels of strategic value. I'll tell you a very simple story. I worked with a consumer products company that had a call center. It was fairly efficient, that first level of value. They were forecasting, they were planning, they were handling the calls, the interactions coming their way. They weren't adding a lot of value. Nobody really wanted to work there. It was a place to get a job, and then you get transferred to some other part of the company. And they said, we have nothing to lose. How do we create value? And they didn't have the latest and greatest technology. They've added some, which has been very helpful. But one of the things they could start is, what kind of calls are you getting? What kind of interactions? And so they began to look. They began to look a little deeper, and they found that 11% of the calls they got on just one of their spray cleaning products, very, very popular in the market, the cap was hard to get off. So you would buy it at the store, you would take it home, go to use it, and struggle with it, and all too often it would break off the spray nozzle. So most customers throw it away, make a note, don't buy that brand again. Thank goodness for those who called, who contacted them and said, hey, I just spent money on this, I can't even use it now. So at the second level, they were able to apologize and send coupons for other products, make it right. At the third level, they went out to their packaging supplier, partner company. They said, hey, 11% of the contacts we're getting are because of this problem with the cap. Can we fix it? They said, of course. Never heard that. We've got customers all over the world. We've never heard that. It's because most aren't giving that kind of information out across the organization. So they fixed the problem, and those calls went away. And customer satisfaction was now baked into, it was an inherent part of the product. We're becoming better and better and better as a profession at doing that. What are we learning? You can't survey customers and learn as much as that powerful information that we're getting. Contact after contact, half hour after half hour, day after day. But most of the solutions are in other parts of the organization. It means we have to get out of our offices and get out there and build those relationships across the company so that we're really using this information to its potential. Products, processes, services. Our customers are telling us every day, every moment of every day. Question for you at this point. What do you think? What's the most difficult part of improving your call center? Which of these variables would you say, yeah, that's the number one? If I could solve that, if I could snap my fingers and solve that, that'd be the one. And just take your keypad and the numbers correspond. This will be interesting to see what we come up with here. Very interesting. So it's a with the exception of hiring, which is very much in agreement with other parts of the world, other parts of the profession. We see much the same numbers. Hiring is a huge challenge, getting the right people, and then it's a pretty even distribution beyond that. More contact channels, yep, that's a big challenge. One of the simple solutions that we're seeing in contact centers that are really pushing forward is educating other parts of the organization on how the contact center behaves. And this fourth trend, you'll have to forgive me, this looks like an eye test, but this is based on Erlang C, a queuing formula that was developed in 1917, about almost 100 years ago, by a Danish mathematician, lived in Copenhagen. Most are probably using this in one form or another, or you're using computer simulation, which is an alternative to calculate staff. But here's what so many organizations haven't really grasped. Our colleagues in other parts of the organization maybe don't really know what the dynamics are here. If you see that box up above, the green fonts are simply the input. How long do our calls last? How many do we get? So I just plugged in some numbers here for an example. 250 calls, 3 minutes talk time, a half a minute after call work, and plugged in a middle of the road service level. And you get these answers then. You press enter, you get these answers. So we need, in this example, 34 agents. Again, it's just an example, numbers I plugged in. What this tells us is what happens to our callers. I worked with an insurance company recently. They said, we are so far off in staffing. Our service level is a disaster. We walk in every morning. The queue is constant. And so we ran some numbers. I did a few calculations. They weren't that far off. There's a few people here and a few people there off the mark. They're much bigger than this. There were just a few people here and there off the mark. Our colleagues in marketing who put out promotional pieces need to know. We've got to know what's happening. Our colleagues in product development who put out new products or new communication, they need to tell us. And then we in turn need to tell them what the response is and what kind of customer inquiries are coming out of that. This is something our colleagues across the organization have to know and understand as numbers oriented as it looks. By the way, I put a little note in here so I wouldn't forget. If you would like, that's a little software program that we developed. I will give it to you for no charge. If you will give me your name, if you want to give me your name and email address, I'll send you that program. It's just a little calculator, and you can use it to show the staffing trade-offs in your own organization. We can also send you some research and other things that we just don't have time for this morning. So sometime today I'll be around. Give me your name and your email, and if that's the only communication you want, that's fine. Just let me know that. But I'll get that to you, and you can have it and use it. I want to show you one more little commercial. This is for a software company, and they're advertising their product. But there's a point here. Everything we're talking about goes beyond the contact center's walls. So here's what we don't want to have happen in so many ways in our contact center.
Intruder in Sector 12. Intruder in Sector 12. Hey!
Intruder in Sector 12.
Can your security software protect your whole business?
Sector 12 not secure.
Not just pieces? Ours can. eTrust Security Software from Computer Associates.
Sector 12 is now secure. We just handled an interaction. We did our job. It's over. Now it's just beginning. That's where it really gets interesting, because that's where we're empowered to go out to the rest of our organization and really improve our products and services and processes across the board. That's the defining trend. The thing that we have to have, of course, and you identified this with that question a moment ago, what's the challenge? And the solution first of all, is to recognize it's the biggest challenge. We've got to get the right people. We've got to get the right team. Understanding our customers, understanding our channels, understanding what service really means in today's environment, understanding our organization and helping them understand the call center environment. It's an exciting process, and one that I'm convinced we're going to see more change in the next 5 years than we've seen in the last 20. And that's why conferences like this are so important, where we can get a chance to share and dialogue and see what's happening, what are the case studies, what are the things that we're all learning that can help our profession. Exciting time to be involved. So with that, I think we've got a few minutes for questions. I'd love to take some.
First questions here.
Good afternoon, Marie McDever, Raiffeisen Bank. Actually, the highest service level always causes the highest cost for the organization. And what, in your opinion, is the best way to define the ideal tool to define the well-balanced service level and cost?
Thank you for the great question. So the assumption has been for many years that a higher service level does cost us more. That is quickly becoming not the case. And the reason is channel hop. I can go from one channel to another very quickly. So if I'm in queue and I've got some time, I've got a smartphone. I can try email. I can try a social channel. I can try text, perhaps. Wonder what they'll respond to the quickest. So channel hop creates a very costly environment very quickly. The answer is we've got to do good planning. That fourth trend where we've got to have the right people in place at the right time, that's the answer. We've got to forecast. We've got to forecast as accurately as possible and maintain good service levels. And with that, we tend to see our cost structure optimized. If you see, and thanks, it's a great question. If you see channel hop, if you see your customers going from one channel to another, that's an early symptom that service level is perhaps not where it should be.
Здравствуйте. Фисенко Ольга, базис контакт-центр. Скажите, пожалуйста, меня интересуют тенденции на мировых рынках, связанные с обучением специалистов, профессионалов в области контакт-центров. Мы говорим о том, что есть бурный рост, да, о том, что рынки развиваются, о том, что основная проблема – это подбор кадров. Мы говорим о том, что колл-центр становится очень сложным, поэтому что происходит в области профессионального образования? Спасибо.
My path was kind of by accident. I started working for a telecommunications company actually during university. I was the lowest person on the totem pole, and I was the one who ran cable underneath floors as they installed new systems. And it was hard work. Down under these floors, there's steam pipes, and it's dusty, it's dirty. But I began to realize, wow, this is amazing what we're enabling, these new capabilities, these new communication capabilities. So that's kind of how I got started, purely an accident. I don't believe that's going to be the case so much in the future. We're all kind of the last generation who stumbled into this profession. There will be more who do, to be sure. But there are dozens now of universities out there that have contact center management programs. There are literally dozens, there are hundreds of corporate programs that are opened up to other companies in collaboration. So I think it's beginning to change. One thing I would recommend is advertise, promote what you're doing. Send press releases to the paper. Have news crews cover it. Every customer is interested in this because everyone's got an experience. Yeah, I really, really don't like it when service is bad. I love it when service is great. So advertise what you're doing, promote what you're doing, and that in turn draws new people into the profession who we need right now at higher levels of education than ever. Okay, one more question.
Марина Буздалина, Русфинансбанк. Спасибо за доклад. Вопрос про канал видео. В каких отраслях используется этот канал активно и какая его доля? Спасибо.
Video is single-digit % right now in contact centers. It's low single-digit %. It's not very common, but it's growing like this. We're seeing just the beginnings of this curve develop very quickly. When we landed here this weekend, I turned on my phone. The phone immediately works. I can immediately have video conversations. It's becoming so common outside of contact centers that we believe it's going to be very common within contact centers. Banks are where a lot of it's happening right now. Banks and financial institutions, we expect to see a lot more of it. Spasiba bolshoy. Really enjoyed this time with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.